What's going on, Rangers fans? Before we start this episode, just a little bit of a disclaimer here. I am literally just finding out about the Quinn Hughes trade to the Minnesota Wild, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Out of all teams, I did not think he would end up there. Little bit of an underwhelming return, in my opinion, but overall, just mind-boggling that he got traded there. But I bring that up because we did mention Quinn Hughes in some capacity in this particular episode. So whatever you hear about Quinn Hughes is literally off the record because he literally just got traded. So just wanted to throw that out there. But with that being said, enjoy today's episode. This Metro Division, man, I mean, what a bizarre year in the NHL, am I right? What's going on, Rangers fans? Welcome to yet another edition of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast presented by DraftKings. I'm Jimmy Fanizzi. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure you follow us on X and Instagram at BlueSeats94 and use the hashtag BlueSeats to chat with us on any and all topics at hand. You can also send us fan mail from the Blue Seats at gmail.com. That's from the Blue Seats at gmail.com. Also, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and subscribe on all audio platforms. And be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. I'm still trying to find the right words to describe not even just the Rangers season so far, but just this Metro Division overall is really boggling my mind, and it's really been hard to come up with the proper word to describe it other than bizarre. That's the best way I can put it for you. But thankfully, for today's episode, I am not alone for this discussion. He is the co-host of the Devil's State of Mind podcast, my personal friend, and yours as well. Please help me welcome back on the show, the one and only Neil Villapiano. Neil, it has been quite a while since we have collabed together, and it's been a while since we've spoken. How's everything with you and the family?
Well, first I want to clarify, there's only one host of the Devil State of Mind podcast, and you're looking right at him. There is
Yeah,
no
that that that
I
that,
am
was- that
not a
was my bad.
co-host.
I said co-host.
You
I'm
you
thinking of Flames Cast for some reason. I'm
you thinking of
sorry.
Flamescast, yeah, or the Bottom Line podcast, holy throwback there. Um,
That's
but
a
no,
throwback right there.
it is. But no, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I know it's been difficult in terms of scheduling for both of us. But I'm glad that we finally were able to schedule a time that worked for both of us and do this episode. And yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've really spoken or seen one another, but we still keep in contact. And yeah, everything's been good. How about you?
I've been busy, but I've been hanging in there. I've got my own things outside of this that I've had to worry about, but I'm hanging in there. I can't complain. I appreciate you asking, but I'm glad you're doing well as well. I can't say the same about our teams though, and we'll get to that in a second. Um, but I want to talk about this division for a second because, well, actually, not even that yet. A few hours ago, actually, while I was at work, we actually had a big trade that was announced that I wanted to get your thoughts on, and that is that the Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired Stuart Skinner and Brett Kulak and an Edmonton Oilers 2029 second round draft pick in exchange for Tristan Jarry and Sam Poulin. This is a big trade for both sides, but for me personally, I know I've kind of harped on Stuart Skinner a lot, even though he has shown a ton of flashes coming off back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances. But just give me your overall thoughts on this trade and who does this benefit more?
I think one thing you kind of hope for is that this is kind of the beginning of, teams really making moves. Because I think that it's obviously been very quiet. I mean, it's been quiet since, July 1st in terms of like actual moves and things like that. But yeah, it came as a little bit of a surprise, especially when, when you look at it from Edmonton's side, it's very obvious that they need better goaltending. Stuart Skinner, while yes, has helped the Oilers get to the finals each of the last 2 years, the bottom line is that they haven't gotten enough in order to ultimately win the cup. And they needed to try to make some upgrades. And look, we look at that Connor McDavid contract extension. That's going to end much sooner than people think it's going to end. And
Mm,
the clock is ticking for this Oilers franchise to find a way to get over the hump. And they've had a disappointing year for the most part so far this year. But fortunately for them, just like everybody else, there's a lot more parity in the league. So I mean, 2 or 3 wins in a row, and they're right back in the thick of things. So but they get Tristan Jarry, and Jarry's definitely been up and down. He's one of those guys that when he's really on his game, he's very good. He's very
yeah,
good. He can stand on his head and make some and win you some games. But when he's bad, I mean, it was so bad last year. He was in the AHL. I mean, so you're taking a risk certainly by acquiring him. Um, is it an upgrade over Stuart Skinner? I would probably say no. I think that Skinner is probably better than Tristan Jarry, but I also get why you need to make a change. I am curious to see if the Oilers are done making moves in terms of the goaltending. I mean, you still have Calvin Pickard, and now
yeah.
you have Dari. I mean, a lot of people have talked about, maybe Jordan Bennington is going to end up being an Edmonton Oiler. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how things progress. But from Edmonton's side, again, it's a risk and something you got to take when you're in their position. As far as Pittsburgh is concerned, at the end of the day, I mean, they are still going to make moves regardless of where they are in the standings. That has never been discontinued.
Agreed.
From everybody that we've heard, even though they've had some early season success, they are not going to simply just change course and say, "Well, let's just throw everything in." I mean, if everything works out, good for them. Do I
Yeah,
think that Pittsburgh got better? I would say they got maybe a tad bit better. It's certainly, bringing in Stuart Skinner. It'll be curious to see how he fits in and how he
mm,
plays in a much different situation than when he was in Edmonton the last couple of years. Brent Kulak also heads over to Pittsburgh. Kulak can be a nice depth piece for this team. And,
right.
bottom line is that I think both teams felt like they needed to make some changes. And Jari finally leaves Pittsburgh and now gets a really good opportunity with an Oilers team that, if he gets enough support, could end up benefiting them. And as for Pittsburgh, they move on and they get a different goaltender, and we'll see how things play out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought I was a bit shocked to see that trade at first, but I mean, the only thing for me is that Tristan Jarry, I will say at least Stuart Skinner can show that he can stay healthy. Tristan Jarry, to me, he's been constantly hurt. So health is a concern to me for Tristan Jarry, but I do think that it will help a little bit for the
Yep.
Edmonton side of things. I mean, me personally, I think they're probably better off without Stuart Skinner anyway, but that's just my personal opinion, but we'll see how it goes. But I like the deal for both sides. I think it can benefit
Yeah.
for both sides. Pittsburgh's kind of have a down year anyway. I mean, it looks like they're going towards the rebuilding stage, especially when Crosby's out the door anyway. And we don't even know what Malkin's going to be. He's going to be out the door after this year anyway. But even still, I think this trade benefits both sides.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just, I think I'd probably consider it more a lateral move for both sides. Um, Definitely want to see Edmonton do more with their goaltending. I don't think you
Yeah,
can really just go with Calvin Pickard and Tristan Jarry. I would say this: if they are able to get someone like Jordan Bennington and Jarry tandem looks better than a
yeah,
tandem of Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. So
100%.
from again, the other thing that I'm hoping for, Jimmy, is this just opens the floodgates for other moves in the league. And we've obviously heard a lot of different rumors going around the last 2-3 weeks. Really curious to see if everybody was just waiting for somebody to make a move. Didn't have to be anything dramatic, and obviously this wasn't a dramatic move. But I think for Pittsburgh also, just to get a pick, I know it's a couple years down the road, but nonetheless, I mean, getting some assets for Tristan Jarry, I think is still good business by Kyle Dubas, and we'll see what other moves they end up making.
I agree. But overall, a good trade for both sides. I think we can both agree on that. But now, I hate to do it, but we got to talk about both of our teams and their struggles
Sure.
recently. But I want to get your thoughts on the Rangers first because I just over the past 2 months I really have struggled to define the right word to describe how the Rangers are this year. I mean, look, we know they can't score. I mean, that's obvious. They can't score. They haven't been able to score since the beginning of the year. I think we all understand that. But I think the more baffling thing to me is their inability to finish. Granted,
Ooh.
they had a much better week this past week than they have pretty much all year, coming off big wins against really top tier teams like Dallas. You got a point against Colorado, a game in which you were down 2-1, and then the dramatics by Panarin to send it to overtime. Granted, I don't think any Ranger fan is upset at that loss in particular because Colorado is running away with the NHL right now. There's no question about that. So to get a point against that team, you sign up for that every day. But then you go to Vegas. That game was that was probably one of the worst ref games I've ever seen. Granted, I will say they did do their best to give that game away. I will say it right here, right now. If you think otherwise, yes, I know the refs did not help. There was an obvious tripping call that was missed on Robertson. But other than that, if you think they didn't give that game away, I don't know what the hell you're watching. But regardless, they did get a point against Vegas. They went 5-1-2 over their last 8 games at the time of that stretch. So overall, a pretty good stretch for the boys. But even still, it's like, can your scoring be consistent? Can your defense actually help out Igor? Now, granted, Igor has not had an Igor-type year, but he's not even close to the Rangers' problem right now. Neither is Mike Sullivan. This is a player problem, okay? So, and do I blame Chris Drury? Kind of a little bit, because he's the one that put this team together. And everybody's calling for his head. And I'm saying to myself, can we wait to see what he does at the deadline first before we make any assumptions, and then we can see what happens? I know they've been calling for his head for a while, but look, at the end of the day, this Rangers season, I don't even know what to think. I just call it bizarre, but I know you've been paying attention to the Metro Division. Just give me your thoughts on these Rangers, and is there a possibility that they'll be able to turn things around?
I think the first thing I'll say is the best way I would describe the Rangers this year has been consistently inconsistent. I mean,
Yeah, that's about right.
you think about the way the season started, right? They went. I forgot how long they went. They went a horrible losing streak of just not only not winning at home, but not even scoring. But then they would go on the road and they would just look like world beaters.
Yep.
It was very odd. It was very odd.
And it's still that way. Like they have what,
Right.
12, 13 wins on the road and like 3 or 4 wins at home this year. It doesn't make sense.
It's just showing you how weird this season has been for a lot of teams. But I think for the Rangers, I think the best way I would say it is that I think they're at a crossroads right now because you think about how the last couple of years have gone with that core and how they've gotten close to maybe getting to the finals and
Yeah.
really giving themselves a chance. And ultimately they came up short. And you look at some of the moves they made. Obviously, we saw last year with the drama of everything. You traded Jacob Trouba. The season ended up being such a wash, right? And you bring in Mike Sullivan, and I think the message is clear that the Rangers have no interest in rebuilding at this moment. Although,
Mm-mm.
like you said, we have to see where things go at the trade deadline. But right now, I think the Rangers. It just goes with every other team that if they can string together 3 or 4 wins, they're top 3 in the division. I mean, so it's not like they can just punt the season away. I'd probably say there's only like 1 or 2 teams in the league in general that I think you could really just say like, all right, we're punting on this season. And I would argue that's probably Calgary and Vancouver, just considering where
Yeah.
they are in the standings and how they've played this year. But I think for the Rangers, I don't think it's any time to really throw in the towel. I think the one thing I'll say though is that the Rangers lack depth. There isn't a whole when you look at that bottom 6, it doesn't really strike fear in a lot of
No,
people.
no, it doesn't.
You're having guys like Taylor Radish, trying to produce something, and I mean it. It's not there, and I think that, and again, you mentioned Chris Drury. I mean, I'm surprised the jury is still there. Maybe if the season falls apart like it did last year, maybe they move on. It depends on where James Dolan. I mean, James Dolan is probably more focused on the Knicks right now, considering they're in the NBA Cup semifinals
Mm.
now. than he's worried about the Rangers. But nonetheless, I would say the Rangers are at a crossroads, and I think that they would benefit from really considering making those uncomfortable moves of moving guys like Artemi Panarin, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. You got to start thinking about Mika Zibanejad as well.
Mm,
You got to think about that core. I mean, you know, even Alexi Lafreniere, I think you have to at least look at it just because of the fact that, like, do you want to have another situation like you had with Capo Caco, where, like, by the time you run him out of town, his value is nothing, and he goes to another team and becomes solid, right? And
yeah.
you guys saw how it all went down with Caco when he got traded to Seattle. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he fit right in, and I think it just kind
Yep.
of proved that the system that was in place prior to that with Laviolette just wasn't working. Um, Shesterkin Shesterkin's been good, but like you said, is he at the level that he's normally at? No. But then again, there's times where he's getting no support. I mean, while he gave up 3 goals against Chicago, the Rangers didn't score, and you're
Nope.
not going to win any games scoring no goals. Um,
Well, let me stop you right there because I made this point on Instagram on one of the posts that they put up. I literally said if it wasn't for Igor standing on his head, that game could have been 6 or 7-0.
yeah, yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think the goaltending is fine. I think it's perfectly fine. I think the Rangers have, obviously, with Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick, they have a very good goaltending tandem. The defense, I think the biggest issue is that they give up a lot of odd man rushes. I don't know if it's just
Yes.
a matter of over pursuing on the back end or just miscommunication, but that seems to happen quite a lot. And it continues from last year, too. I think there was one game I remember. One of the games the Devils were at the Garden and they blew out the Rangers, and that was the famous Instagram hockey kind of comment. But I remember watching that game and being like, the Devils can basically do whatever they want. They're getting like 2-on-1s, breakaways. Like I'm not really sure why it's been this easy to get around them, and it just I don't know, and I think it's been better this year, but still not where it needs to be. But the bottom line is that the forward core is just not where anybody would like it to be. And I think
Mm-mm.
again, that's why I say they're at a crossroads, because you have to start thinking like, how much more can you get out of this core at this stage? And when do you make that really tough decision to actually rebuild? Right. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not going to sit here and tell Ranger fans that their season is over and that they need to just focus on next year or tank. That's not what
Right.
I'm saying. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of underlying numbers that are concerning. And if it wasn't for how close the entire league is in terms of the standings, I I think in other years, a lot of teams would be further down in terms of how far are they from a playoff spot than they actually are.
Yeah.
So that's my overall thing with the Rangers. I would say consistently inconsistent.
No, that sounds about right, and you do make some fair points. But I want to bring up Mika Zibanejad real quick because him and Chris Kreider, I think it's safe to say that they were like the 1-2 punch when Chris Kreider was still there, and you saw that kind of die down a little bit last year. And then Chris Kreider gets traded to Anaheim. All of a sudden, he's killing it with Anaheim right now. And hey, good for him. Congratulations. I really do wish him well. I really do. And it's
Yeah,
going to be very interesting to see how he'll do when he comes back to Madison Square Garden this upcoming Monday when the Rangers host the Ducks. Him and Trouba, might I add. But to me, am I the only one that might be crazy to think that Zibanejad looks slightly better without Kreider? Because to me, I see sort of a less hesitant Mika Zibanejad. I see a guy who says, hey, I got to take more chances with shooting the puck. And granted, he has been on a little bit of a hot streak, him and Panarin. I like what I'm seeing from them toward the latter half of 2025. And I really
mhm,
hope this keeps up. So you like that. But again, it's just the consistency by everybody, especially on the defensive side of the puck. And dare I say, the special teams has not been there. Their
mm,
penalty kill, I've said it for a while, has always been their biggest strength. They're 20th in the league right now, which is a big drop off. Their power play, while it has looked good in spurts, still has been massively disappointing. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they gave up a shorthanded goal against Chicago in that game, which is not what
Mhm.
you want. But look, I would say Mike Sullivan. No, I'm not. I'm not going to blame him. As far as the players, though, everybody's to blame.
Yeah, yeah, I can't argue with that. I think it falls more on the GM because again, he's the one that put this roster together, right?
Yes.
And you're relying on guys again. The top guys can only do so much. And if they're not having a good game, you're not gonna have a lot of success even with the bottom six guys. I mean, even a guy like Connor Sheary. I mean, Connor Sheary was a PTO at the beginning of the year, and he's been fine. But is he reliable? No. And
No.
let's be real. The single biggest reason that he's on this team is because of Mike Sullivan and
Thank
what
you.
Connor Sheary did in his time in Pittsburgh, which was now nearly a decade ago.
Yep.
This is 2025, not 2016. Um, but I think I think going back to what you're saying about Sabanajad, I definitely agree with that, and I think it comes down to this. Chris Kreider, as we know, is a guy who has a nose for the goal. That's his big thing, right? He can do other things. Clearly, he's physical. He can do a lot. But the
But he's
bottom
a master with getting in front of the net and deflecting pucks in. That's what he's
exactly,
always been.
especially on the power play, which
Yes.
is consistent also in Anaheim. The
Yes.
reality is that now that Sabanajad doesn't have that kind of guy, he goes away from being more of a pass first guy to a guy that's being relied on to shoot the puck more. And I think that that's what Mike Sullivan is encouraging Zibanejad to play. So that's really what I think is the difference here. And as far as Artemi Panarin, I mean, Panarin for the most part just looks like Artemi Panarin. It doesn't really look like things are any different. I know he got off to a slow
Yeah.
start to begin the year. And I know last year he was a big disappointment in terms of just his overall play. The one thing I will say this that I think people need to keep in mind a lot of time when guys are at their last year of their deal, they tend to have one of their better years overall. They tend to really play well because ultimately they're trying to prove that they deserve another contract, whether that's with the team they're on or somewhere in free agency. With how bad free agency is going to be this upcoming off season because of so many guys are now going to be off the market. I
Mm.
do wonder if Panarin is just going to like wait this out and see what his market is when he actually when the season's actually over. But I think overall with the Rangers again, it's just I hope that the Rangers for the Rangers' sake, it's like you don't want them to be in that mushy middle, right? Where they're not too bad to rebuild, but they're not good enough to truly compete. So I think it's still very much a wait and see approach right now.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it is frustrating that it is that way, I do have to agree. I mean, look, again, it's just hard to it's just been frustrating to watch this team so far this year. Do I hope they turn it around? Absolutely. But if they keep playing like this, I don't even think they're making the playoffs this year. I said they would be a wild card team this year, but if this keeps up, I don't think they're even a playoff team this year. And
Right.
based off of what we saw last year, if this keeps up, then hell yeah, Chris Drury's out the door.
Yeah, no, and I think that Drury in many ways has run his course, but I think again when you think about who's running the show here, if James Dolan is not that involved in what's going on, I could see how Chris Drury keeps his job because you know, he might be under the pressure to still try to win because I'm sure Dolan, as we've seen with the Knicks, he's not keen on rebuilding. He's more of the guy that wants to throw money at everything and hope that it works. Um, him hiring guys like Leon Rose and Worldwide West to run the Knicks were two very smart moves because they're just allowed to do what they need to do in order for the Knicks to be good. And
100%.
ultimately, it's paying off right now. But with the Rangers, I think you have to do that same approach. You have to find a way to get good hockey guys in here. Maybe if you fire Drury and he's still available, maybe a Brendan Shanahan. He comes over after his time in Toronto. Maybe he's the kind of guy that you want to bring in, somebody like that, somebody who has a better understanding of everything. Um,
Wouldn't
but
mind that.
ultimately, it's James Dolan's decision as to how he wants this team to be, whether it's rebuilding or trying to still compete despite the team not being in that position right now.
Yeah, I agree. Brendan Shanahan, though, that would be a very interesting move. I'd be curious to see, if he gets let go, maybe they bring in Shanahan. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, as far as the Rangers are concerned, you're right. I mean, it is kind of a wait and see approach, but we shall see what happens.
The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State, which means you can place a bet on anything going on in the NHL. And new customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boo Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through or per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved.
Let's get to your team now, shall we? Because I did listen to your most recent episode. I got to be straight up with you. You know what kind of a fan I am. I have not heard you that upset about your team in a long time, man. I mean, that's the most angry and frustrated that I have heard you about this team. And quite frankly, I don't blame you. At the time of this recording, it is December 12th. The Devils are currently sixth in the Metropolitan Division at 17, 13, and 1, 35 points, tied with Pittsburgh and Montreal, excuse me, for the final wild card spot point-wise. Do people realize that the Devils were a top 3 team in the Metro Division at the season start? Now you have Carolina, the Capitals, and the Islanders as top 3. The Islanders are better than you. How in the world did we get to this freaking point where the Islanders are better than you? I'm sure Kim Moisa, aka Isles Girl 3, is doing a happy dance right now. That's how good the Islanders are. But look, the Devils, I mean, dare I say they almost have the same exact problem right now as the Rangers, in which they can't score and they can't finish. Neil, you watch this team better than I do. Just how did we get here with your team? Like, what happened that this drop off from 3rd to 6th? Actually, no, not even 3rd. You were on top of the Metro, and you fall down to 6th. How did we get here with the Devils?
How we got here really starts back after the 22-23 season. And what I mean by that is the Devils, and most specifically Devils general manager and president of hockey operations, Tom Fitzgerald, has slowly but surely taken away the identity of what this team was. If you go back to 22-23, that team was tremendous 5-on-5, an aggressive forechecking team, using its speed, had good depth. Goaltending was obviously unrealistic just because of the year that Vitek Vanacek had, and obviously what Akira Schmidt had done as well. But whether Tom Fitzgerald overcompensated, maybe was listening to too many people, there were a lot of moves that he did and did not make that ultimately got us to where we are today. And you don't have to go that far back. Go back to the offseason prior to last year. he ends up signing guys like Brendan Dillon, Stephen Nason, you know, McDermott, guys like that, and even Brett Pesci to a much lesser extent. And he's throwing out guys like Justin Dowling to be bottom six guys. Ironically, Justin Dowling is with the Rangers now, which is kind of funny. But nonetheless,
I totally forgot he was still in the league, to be honest with you.
I don't even know. I think he's in the AHL. I don't even remember if he's with the Rangers.
Okay.
I don't
Never
even
mind.
remember if he was. I know he was on them. I know he signed a contract at the beginning of the year, but I digress. The Devils have several issues, and some of them will be not so surprising to the outsiders. Some of them might be more surprising than you might think. The first one that is obvious and has been obvious for several years is the fact that the Devils are banged up, and they're banged up badly. I mean, Jack Hughes yet again is out with an injury. Obviously, this time was incredibly freak and I know very meme worthy for a lot of people, and I get it. Um, Fortunately, he will be back. I would say by this time next month, he'll definitely be back in the lineup, unless his injury lingers. So we'll see. You don't have Brett Pesci, who's arguably your best defenseman and the guy that is the glue that keeps that defense overall intact. Jonathan Kovacevic, he's been out since the beginning of the year after sustaining an injury last year in the playoffs and had off-season surgery. And, we don't know where he's at. Evgeny Dodonov is out with a hand injury. We have no idea when he's coming back. Arseny Gritsyuk now is going to be out for at least the next 2 games with an upper body injury. And we've had other guys out of the lineup. We've had Connor Brown out of the lineup. Cody Glass has been out numerous times since the season began. Um, and, I would argue that even though he did score last night, Jesper Bratt, I think, is playing very much hurt. He got hit by Ovechkin a couple weeks ago, was slow to get up, played the rest of the game, has played every game since. But he's
Yeah.
also had some days off as well, maintenance days, and that kind of tells you that I think he's definitely dealing with something. I mean, teams deal with things every year. It's unfortunate also that Timo Meyer, he had to take a leave of absence due to a family matter. So, obviously we hope that everything is okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's
absolutely.
not because he had to leave. A lot of people have told me that he's probably back in Switzerland for, because of this. So who knows when he'll be back? We don't know. So as you can see, just by saying all that, the Devils are heavily depleted, which isn't helping, right? Because you're throwing out a lot of guys from the Utica Comets out there to try to help this team, and respectfully, they can't be relied upon to do a whole lot. But the bigger thing that comes down to it more than anything else is this team lacks depth. It's been lacking depth for several years. And you have a general manager who has put the Devils in a really, really frustrating spot of you have guys who are getting paid a good chunk of money who are not contributing at this point consistently, and you gave them no trade clauses, which is really hurting Fitzgerald's ability to dump salary somewhere so that he can make other moves. And
Right.
I'm talking about guys like Andre Palat, Dougie Hamilton, and other guys like that. Those are the 2 that really stand out. Um, and so right now you have a team that is having to be heavily relied upon by guys like Nico Hischier and Timo Meyer and Jesper Bratt, Dawson Mercer. And you would think on paper that the team has enough top 6 talent to tread water. And they've been able to win a couple of games here and there while Jack Hughes has been out, and same as Brett Pesci. But they've lost 6 of their last 7, and they're coming off last night getting their doors blown off them at home 8-4 to the Tampa Bay Lightning,
Ugh.
who were also heavily depleted as well.
I'm not gonna lie. I hate to cut you off. I apologize, but I did get a glimpse of that game last night. After the first period, I saw it was 4-1. I said, "Wait, what? It's 4-1 already? What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
Tampa Bay is so depleted right now. It's a joke. Like, what the hell?
You got a glimpse of it. I watched the whole thing because I was there. I was there in
Mm,
person to watch whatever that was last night.
I'm
And for
very
the
I'm
first
very sorry
time,
you had to witness that.
uh, I mean, it's the risk that we all take, right? Whenever we go to a sporting event. Um,
True.
for the first time in a long time, I did contemplate leaving early after the second period because I was just so disinterested and so over the game and the way that they were playing. The reality is that anybody who's been around this team long enough knows that this has been the same thing for years now. They get hurt, they don't have depth, and they end up just struggling mightily. And now you have a goaltending problem. Jacob Markstrom has looked awful, downright putrid for the last month and change. He's given up 3 or more goals in I think 7 or 8 of his starts in a row. He got pulled in the first period last night. Jake Allen, who had a really strong start to the year, hasn't been as good of late. I mean, this is about as broken of a Devils team as I've seen in several years. This I was telling people last night, this gives me 2021 vibes where you're just not really even in these games. You look lifeless. You're not doing a whole lot. You're not
Yeah.
competing and you're just embarrassing yourself game in and game out. And even their win a couple nights ago in Ottawa, it felt like a loss because it was such a struggle to just win the game. And so we come to this point now, and all of the focus and blame goes directly on Tom Fitzgerald at this point because Sheldon Keefe, I have said, is the best Devils coach this team has had in a long time. And this is not on him. People want to easily point the finger and say it's a coaching problem, it's this, that. The bottom line really is that Sheldon Keefe can only coach the guys that he has available to him. And even last night, when asked, does this team need outside help? He didn't say no. He didn't really
Mm,
answer the question, but he didn't say no. Even earlier this year, he made it a point to say publicly, I want guys on this team that want to play. He even went back to last year and talked about the depth and said, look, I have guys who you have to coach and teach them how to score because you just don't have guys that are capable of doing that. That's not the role that they play. I mean, guys are being thrown into different roles because they don't have a choice in the matter. And even after last night's loss, Jimmy, Jesper Bratt said that the team had a very honest meeting after, like right after the game. And he didn't want to go into any more detail about what was said and what honest conversations they had. It all comes back to this. This is one of the most mentally weak teams I have ever watched play hockey. This is a
mm,
mental problem. This is a
wow.
mental issue. And it starts with the GM and it starts with some of the top guys we have, the core guys of this team. Because this has happened year in and year out where they get injuries and they lack depth and guys are just they're just getting by. And
Yeah.
this team is stagnant. Tom Fitzgerald was given a phenomenal core when he took over as general manager back in 2020 and he has really wrecked this team and they need help. And for whatever reason, Tom Fitzgerald makes very little to no moves. Even last year at the deadline, all he does is bring in Cody Glass, Brian Dumoulin, who's not even on the team anymore because he left in free agency. He essentially punted on the season. He said, I'm not going to make moves to help the team when Jack Hughes is out of the lineup. And to
Mm,
me, the good GMs are the ones that are going to make moves regardless of anything. I always
yeah.
think about Bill Zito making that move to trade Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk. It broke apart that core that the Panthers had built, added a guy that ends up becoming your main core guy, and 3 years later, you've won back-to-back Stanley Cups and been to 3 finals in a row. And you trade for guys like Brad Marchand. and you make these aggressive moves like extending long-term contracts for Aaron Ekblad, Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, and they're all very old, but that's the price you take and you make in order to try to win, and you want to win now. The
Yep.
reality is for the Devils and for Tom Fitzgerald is that he is not capable of making those moves. I think he very much wants to be liked and he wants to be respected. And right now, that's not right now. It just isn't working. It hasn't worked. And I get it. Everybody very much wants for Tom Fitzgerald to be fired right
Yeah.
now. The problem is that you're going to end up hiring an interim guy within the team, and not much is going to change.
No.
So, if anything, the way that I would tell people is that Tom Fitzgerald will be fired if one of two things happens. One, they don't make the playoffs at all, or two, they have yet another first round exit, which
Mm,
I think is the more likely thing because I think the team will be better once they get some of these guys back into the lineup.
I
But
agree.
ultimately, this team is not a cup contender. And yes, they went on an 8-game winning streak to start the year. They were the best team in the league. And ultimately, it was just another year of getting off to the good start that you want to get off to. And then injuries and the lack of depth comes more to fruition, and you just slowly drop. You
Yep.
just slowly drop. And they've been dropping for, the better part of a month now. And that's just the reality of it. So the the conclusion of all of this, Jimmy, is simply that until actual changes happen, until you make uncomfortable moves and start shaking this core and really going more aggressive to helping this team, this is genuinely the result. Generally the result you're going to see on a fairly consistent basis with this Devils team. It's a big weekend. You have back-to-back home games against the Ducks and then the Canucks. If you can win those games, you take 3 out of 4 this week, and you end up actually having one of your better weeks of late, and people will forget about that 8-4 loss to Tampa last night.
Yeah.
But if you don't show up and you get embarrassed again, and maybe you lose both games or one game, it's just the same old, same old. So that's really where the Devils are. They are a mentally weak team, and until proven otherwise, I'm going to stand by that because the evidence is clear to me where they are. And the general manager is scared, and I used to be a huge defender of him, and I'm not anymore because I don't trust him to make the right moves for this team. I don't trust him to do what is necessary for this team. And, you know, all I can do is just hope. We're all fans at the end of the day. That's what I said on the podcast. And all I can do is hope. And maybe they'll find a way to win both games over the weekend and I'll feel better by Sunday night. I think it's more likely that I won't, but hockey's a magical, unpredictable sport. You don't know what can happen, and we will just go from there. So that is my long-winded response to where the Devils are right now and why they are what they are.
And it was perfectly well executed. And again,
Thank you.
all your feelings are valid. Again, you watch this team way closer than I do, and based on what you've said, I just can't imagine what Tom Fitzgerald is actually going to do when the trade deadline comes. Based on your explanation, I hate to say it, but I can't imagine he's going to do much. Maybe he'll make a move or two here and there, but let me ask you this. If you're the GM, what do you want to do at the trade deadline? What do you want to do to make this team better, to get them at least as a playoff contender again? I still think they're making the playoff regardless, but
Mhm.
what are you doing as GM to make this team better?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I think it really has to start with you have to move money. Um, because right now the Devils have just over $2 million in cap space, and that's with guys like Jack Hughes, Dodonov, Kovacevic on IL. So on IR, excuse me. You're going to have to make moves anyway
Yeah.
because you're going to have to get into the cap and allow these guys to be able to come back. And the guys that stand out to me the most are guys like Andre Palat, who has a 10-team no-trade clause. And the problem is more likely that the teams that Fitzgerald wants to try to move him to either are not interested in taking on that contract for a year and a half, or on Palat's list and he won't accept a trade there. But that would be the first thing that I would do. I would move guys like Palat. I would seriously consider moving Dougie Hamilton at this point because I just don't think that he can. I just don't see it anymore. I think his skills are declining because of his age.
Yeah,
He's dealt with it.
I'm shocked with Hamilton. Hamilton just looks lost.
He does look lost. He's having arguably his worst season of his career at this point. And you have to go out and get guys who are much more consistent in their play. I
Yeah.
think Ryan O'Reilly would be perfect as a third line center for the Devils. I think when healthy, if you have a center depth of Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Ryan O'Reilly, and even Cody Glass as your fourth line center, I think that's a very good center depth, and that can go a long way. You need to add some other depth pieces, maybe a Luke Evangelista who sounds like he's available. Um, you know, you need to find a way to get a top 6 winger. You have to add that to this team. And I know that Steven Stamkos' name has come up over the last week. He actually had a 4-goal game last night for the Predators, so he's certainly upping his trade value, but the guy is in the middle of his 30s, and I don't know how much left he has. And if that's going to be the move that the Devils make, I'm not going to be all that, hopeful about it. I certainly, I think the Devils would have retained salary would have to happen, right?
Yeah.
I think that needs to be. The other thing is I would make a full court press on Quinn Hughes. I mean, if he is truly that available, all signs point to it just needs to happen. It can't be the only move though, Jimmy. Like that's the thing that people are,
I was gonna
that's
say
the thing.
I was gonna say that rumor will never die until it either doesn't happen or
Until
does
he
happen.
moves. Right, until he gets moved. It's not about if it won't happen. It's going to happen. It's a
Right.
matter of when, not if.
Right.
And I think that the Canucks would be better moving him sooner rather than later, because you need to just have this be over and really signal to the franchise that like this is, we're taking a different course now. And look, I get it, right? Jack and Luke are both on the Devils. They all talked about playing together during the offseason. I get it. It seems like it's only a matter of time, right? The bottom line is that for the Devils, there's a chance that they could get Quinn Hughes by not having to give up the house to get him. The Devils have to move money anyway, even if they want to attempt to make this work. But I would do it because you need him.
Yeah.
You need him, but you need other moves, Jimmy. Like I want to make that clear to everybody. Just if the only move the Devils make is acquiring Quinn Hughes, while that is great, do not get me wrong, it's not enough. It's not
No.
enough to make this team a cup contender. It's not even enough to get beyond Carolina. It's just not, right? So if Tom Fitzgerald, which I highly doubt, but if he can make moves where he can shed salary, bring in Quinn Hughes, bring in 2 or 3 depth guys, maybe get a top 6 winger, then okay, we're talking. Like, okay, now it's like, thank you. Like, we're actually showing some ambition here and actually we're taking risks to trying to win with this
Yeah.
core. And I think that would go a long way. Do I think that ultimately happens, Jimmy? No. Evidence shows before that Tom Fitzgerald will make very lateral moves or very little to nothing. Will be underwhelmed like we always are with him. And that'll just be that. And he hasn't spoken to the media since the Luke Hughes signing happened just before the season started. he needs to say something. He needs to
Yeah.
speak because his team is dying and he's just letting it happen and doing nothing right now. And we hear always working the
100%.
phones and everything. I hear the rumors every day, Jimmy. I hear it every single
Oh, I'm sure.
day. And at the end of the day, my response is the same. I will believe it when I see it.
Yep.
Until then, I do not care about these stupid rumors. I don't. I want action. I don't want the Devils to say again, we came in second place. Our offer just wasn't good enough. No, action needs to happen. True action that's going to shake this core. The core needs to be shaken. There needs to be a wake up call of some sort because this team is they're drowning. They're drowning. And people will say to me, Neil, they're only 5 points, which is crazy to think about. They're only
Mm-hmm.
5 points out of first place. Yes, that's true. But at some point, this parity is going to start to separate. We're going
Yes,
to
it will.
start seeing who the true teams are and who are not. It's going to stop at some point. Nope, no, there's no way that all these teams are going to stay the same all year long, right? But you need to make moves now. You can't wait till March because your team could be easily out of a playoff spot and well beyond it if you don't do something now. Moves need to happen now before Jack and Brett Pesci come back. You need to give this team some energy. Can I curse on here? Just,
Yes.
fucking something. Like give us something to give hope on. Something. Make it. I mean, last night, Jimmy, I have never heard that building boo more in the last couple years than I heard last night. Half the
Really?
building was empty. There was booing, there was apathy. I mean, it was just awful. And we're down bad right now. We're down bad, and we are asking for literally something to happen to make us believe that our general manager is doing what he needs to do to help this team win and fill the gaps instead of doing the moves that he made in the offseason that didn't do anything. It didn't move the needle at all.
Yep.
So that's really where we're at right now.
As the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. Let's just hope
Yep.
that both GMs, Tom Fitzgerald and Chris Drury, do something for both of our teams to make them better. For the Rangers, I think it has to be the scoring front, but for the Devils, you said it, depth pieces, and you need at least a top six forward to help out Jack Hughes and Brett Pesci and those guys. You're
Yep.
100% right. But with all that being said, last topic of the day, because I know everybody's been waiting for us to talk about this. That leads us to the entire Metropolitan Division.
Yeah.
Because at the time of this recording, again, it's December 12th, nobody in the Metro is under 500, which is really amazing to think about if you think about it. I said that this was Carolina's division to lose, and so far they're currently tied points-wise with the Capitals. Then in third, you have the Islanders, which again, who saw that coming? And then you have
It's
the
true.
Flyers in fourth, Pittsburgh in fifth, the Devils in sixth, the Rangers in seventh, and Columbus in eighth. This Metro Division, to me, I've never seen a Metro Division, or heck, just a division in general, that has been more close than I have in previous years with this Metro Division. I mean, again, you said it, Neil, the amount of parity in this league, especially with this division, is literally unlike anything that I have ever seen, to the point where literally every single team is not that far off from first place, which is crazy to even fathom right now. So I'm looking at this division and I'm saying, wait a minute. We're only 2 months in. Both our teams still have a chance to get in the playoffs. Not just that, even though it's a long shot from happening, I don't think it's going to happen. But both teams technically still have a shot at the Metro. Again, I don't think it's happening, especially with the Rangers, but there is still a chance. It's only December, and there's still 4 months to go until the playoffs begin. So is it fair for me to say that this is the closest race to a division title as I've seen in previous years? Because I think it is.
I would tend to agree. I mean, like I just pointed out like a few minutes ago, like from the Devils' perspective, if you let's say in all intents and purposes, right? You say like let's say the Devils win both games this weekend, right? That's 4 points.
Yeah.
Carolina loses their next 2 games. The Devils are behind Carolina by 1 point, literally
Yes.
1 point. And like that right there is a great example, right? Another great example is just the fact that, like you mentioned, the Islanders. And I want to say this about the Islanders, and I know it's going to rub Ranger fans the wrong way,
Oh
because
boy.
really for the Devils, I mean it's different with regards to the Islanders because the rivalry isn't the same.
Right. Yeah.
But Matthew Schaefer is the biggest reason that the
Mm.
Islanders have gotten to where they are. He has
Oh
brought
my god.
life into
That
that
that that that
organization.
kid that kid is he might be one of the best draft picks I've ever seen from that draft class. He is unbelievable.
He looks like a generational player, and the Islanders have certainly been longing for someone like him for a long time, and so it's been great. And we can't forget the fact that they do still have a guy like Ilya Sorokin, who's one of the better
Yeah.
goaltenders in the league. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here, right?
Yeah.
Um, but again, right? By the end of this weekend, the Islanders could be in 6th place in the division.
True.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's just that kind of it changes like crazy every day. And so yeah, Jimmy, this is the tightest that I think the Metro division has been in a long time. For years, we would say that really it's a 3-team division. That the bottom half of it just isn't that good and it would be separated and sure, but this year everybody has a chance to win this division, and I think the only team that maybe I would say is a long stretch is Columbus, just because of
Mm.
where they are and how things have gone for them. But it's been impressive. It's been impressive to see how close this team, this division is. And it's not just us, it's the Atlantic Division, the Pacific to a lesser extent. I mean, it's a top 3 heavy team. The Central Division, you got like 5 teams and it's
Mm.
really impressive. So, yeah, I mean, that's really how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned the schedule for the Devils earlier. Let me give you the Rangers schedule here for the upcoming week because it's amazing to me. Because you get again, both of our teams still have a chance because they start a 3-game homestand tomorrow against Montreal, and then back-to-backs against Anaheim and Vancouver, like you do this weekend with the
Right.
Devils. And then they're on the road in St. Louis, then back home for a matinee against the Flyers for the first time this season, and then on the road in Nashville. And then the day before Christmas Eve, you're on the road in Washington. Basically, your last home game of the year is on December 20th.
Yeah.
And the rest of your games are all on the road, which I guess would be in favor of them since they're so damn fantastic on the road to begin with, despite what happened in Chicago, but I digress. But the last 5 games on the road for 2025 are in Nashville, Washington, on Long Island against the Islanders, Carolina, and then the Capitals again on New Year's Eve, which is a matinee game. If the Rangers can somehow, and again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if they can somehow rattle off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 out of a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins, maybe 5, I'd sign up for that any day of the week, and there is still a chance that they could still be climbing toward the top of the division here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that again is just another example of what we're talking about here. It's just like any of these teams can get on a little bit of a roll here and they're good. And it's like, oh, hey, we're right in the thick of it, right? Rangers could win 3 or 4 in a row, top 3 team in the Metro like that.
Well,
And all of a
see
sudden,
that's the problem right there. They can at least win 3 games in a row. They can't even win 4 games in a row. Now, like, what are we doing here?
well, that's what I mean when I said before about consistently inconsistent, right?
Exactly.
That's
Thank
what
you.
I mean. But, you know, again, it's up for grabs right now. And with how condensed the schedule is for everybody, you know, these points matter. And once we get to that Olympic break, which I mean, who knows at this point? We may not even get an Olympic break with the way the arena in Milan looks right now.
Yeah, I
Maybe
heard.
the NHL doesn't go over there, and then that would be the most fascinating thing if the NHL decide they weren't going over, and it's like, so what do we do for the month of February? Is
Mm.
everybody just off? Because you plan literally the entire schedule around not being playing for 2 weeks.
Well, I was gonna say you can't have an all-star break. So what the hell do you do?
I mean, they could probably create an all-star weekend for if they had enough time to figure it out, but it would
True, but
I'm going off the beaten path here. Really what I'm trying to get at is more just the fact that um you know, you want to see I think for everybody it's going to come down to where is your team, whatever team you might be a fan of, where is your team by the time the 1st of February comes around
yeah,
because the good news is that there's gonna be a lot of guys who are banged up right now that are gonna get time to rest and recover without without having to miss games, and that's
yes,
huge. I mean, that's gonna be huge. Um, so it's important for a lot of teams to rack up points now before we get to that point, because once we do, that's really gonna be the telling sign as to what this season's gonna be for every team, essentially.
yeah, 100%. That would be huge for everybody. Last point: both of our teams do not play until March, which is an absolute crime if you ask me.
It is one
But
of the funniest things
yeah,
I've
literally,
seen. It's
literally, it
I mean,
is.
we don't play Carolina again until, like, the end of this month, and we played them the first game of the season.
It
So
it it, it really is. It,
we
it it
played
really is.
we've literally already finished the season series against the Lightning, and we haven't even played the Rangers yet.
It,
So,
it,
I
it
mean,
it really is a joke.
yeah.
But once we do get to that point where we do finally play each other, do you expect both of our teams to still be in a playoff race? Yes or no?
I'm gonna lean towards yes. For
Me
both
too.
teams. I that's the thing, because that's what I was saying, like, I don't think the Rangers are bad enough to, like, bottom out and, like, be one of the worst teams in the league. They just have too much talent, and they have too much pride to let that happen.
Yeah.
I think the same thing goes for the Devils. I think that both of these teams will still very much be in a playoff spot or fighting for a playoff spot, excuse me. I
Right.
think they'll still
Right.
be in the thick of it by that time. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see because, again, both teams will look different in some capacity or another by the time they play each other the first time. And they play each other 3 times in 1 month. So they'll be getting acquainted with one another a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes down.
It's still a joke that we don't have to play until March. It really is a crime. I don't know
Yeah.
who's in charge of making these schedules each year, but that's a crock that we don't play until March. But look, it's gonna be a little while, but I'm very curious to see where both of our teams are by then. Before we wrap things up, Neil, tell people where they can find out more about your show and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Jimmy, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's great
Of
to
course.
see it's great to see and hear from you. It's been a long time again since last time we spoke, but it is great. So yeah, thank you guys. And if you guys want to check out the Devil State of My podcast, check it out wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, give just like Jimmy said for his 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. It goes a long way, just helping out the network and helping out our podcast continue to grow. Also, subscribe over on YouTube as well. Very close to 175 subscribers. Would be a big help if you guys could help me get there and I continue to grow the podcast over on the video platform. You can follow the podcast on social media, Devil State on Twitter and Devil State of Mind on both Facebook and Instagram. And then you can also follow my TikTok, Neil.Villapiano, where I post clips from the podcast. I post my 3 things to watch prior to every Devils game, and also compilations of just games that I go to, which is a lot of fun. And you can go check me out there. And also follow my Blue Sky as well. I'll give you guys updates about the Devils, also about the podcast as well over on there. And yeah, that's what I got. So Jimmy, again, thank you so much for having me on today. It was a lot of fun as always, and I look forward to doing it again.
Man, you know the pleasure is all mine. It has been a really long time since we've done anything together. It is great to hear from you, and I really do hope that we can do it again real soon. And once the Devils and Rangers finally play each other, maybe we should do a little watch party on THPN, just a little sort of a hint for you for what's to come, hopefully. But Neil, again, this was a blast, man. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and talk hockey with you, no matter what the subject is. I know we like to bash on our teams a lot, but it's always great to talk with you. If I don't hear from you, have a wonderful holiday season with you and your family, and we'll talk soon, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, man, and you do the same. And same goes from me to you.
Hey, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, my man. He is Neil Villapiano, the host of Devil State of Mind podcast and the co-host of Flames Cast. Got that right this time. Terrific. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know what your thoughts are on the topics at hand in the comments down below on YouTube and also on social media at BlueSeats94. Use hashtag BlueSeats and follow us there as well. And leave a like and subscribe on YouTube and hit that bell so you're notified of all episodes that air. And subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, and be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. Do you think this Metro Division is closer than we think? We think so, but let's hear from you. And give us your thoughts on the Rangers and the Devils as well. Again, go subscribe to Neil, Devil State of Mind, on all social media and on all audio platforms and on YouTube. And also subscribe to Flames Cast, because him and Kyle, they definitely go at it when it comes to the Calgary Flames and how they're doing. So if you want to find out more about them, go subscribe to Flames Cast on all audio platforms and on YouTube as well. But like I said, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful holiday season with you and your families, and we will catch you in the next episode. Alongside Neil Villapiano, I'm Jimmy. This is From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Go Blue Shirts, and we'll catch you next time. Peace!